Hello, Sales Nation. I'm your host, Will Barron, and welcome to another episode of the Salesman Podcast. On this episode, we have Gavin Preston. He's a speaker, strategy expert, business growth mentor, and we're talking about productivity in the workplace and in sales specifically today. We dive into some other topics as well, but that's the gist of things. Gavin is a really interesting guy, and he was very interesting to interview as well. And he's also got an event coming up on the 9th of April 2016 called the Growth Zone, which is designed to reduce your business frustrations and speed up your growth. So it's more for business owners, perhaps entrepreneurs, than salespeople specifically. We can find out more over at growthzone.co.uk. You can find out more about Gavin over at gavinpreston.com. Everything that we talk about, including these links, are available in the show notes of this episode over at salesman.red/101. I want to thank you for tuning in. As always, Sales Nation, we're going from strength to strength with the show. We're up to about, a couple of weeks ago, we were at 10,000 plus downloads an episode. Now, they're fluctuating between 10 and 20,000 downloads, which is amazing. And I just want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in daily, as I know you all do. And thank you all for the emails and the tweets and the comments that we get regularly about well, you're all stroking my ego and saying how much you like the show, but there's more that goes into the show than just me in the conversation. So yeah, cheers guys, thanks for tuning in, and let's jump into today's interview. Hi Gavin, and welcome to the Salesman Podcast.
Hi.
Right, today we're going to talk about productivity in sales and business, and I'm really intrigued to get some of your insights on some of this. So I'm not sure what rabbit holes we'll go down, but I'm sure there'll be a couple that'll be fascinating. And the first place I want to start with is everybody, whether you're in sales, you're an entrepreneur, you're in business, knows that lazy guy or girl in the office who doesn't seem to pull their own weight, and you look at them and you feel that they're unproductive, even if they don't feel that they're unproductive themselves. So I guess the first place to start and to get a baseline on the whole conversation is, are some people just more productive than others naturally?
Yes, for sure. I think one population to look at, I've noticed when I was working, coaching in senior level in corporates and working with entrepreneurs, are young mums that have got kids at school. What they get done between 9:30 and 2:30 or 9:30 and 3 puts many of their male counterparts to shame. And then if we were to think about the day before we go on holiday, how much do we get done in that day before we go on holiday? So I think when you've got an absolute drop dead time, like I've got to leave today and I'm off for 2 weeks holiday, or I've got to leave now to go because the kids are going to be at the school gates, I think that can actually really drive focus and really drive productivity. There's Parkinson's law work will expand to the time that's available for it. And I think sometimes we can look at a target and think, well, this is our monthly sales target. We've got 20 working days to achieve that. We've got loads of time. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy then to get distracted and not stay absolutely focused in terms of that goal. So yes, some people are more productive than others, and yet all of us have times when we are more productive than other times, and we can improve that performance so that as an individual we can become more productive.
Sure. Okay, so salespeople specifically, I hate the cliche, but for a lot of them, time is money, in that if they can cram more calls in or more meetings, and I'm not talking about so much working smarter here, taking it into consideration that a lot of the audience will already have a lot of that down. But how does someone listening, and myself included, because I'm interested, because the conversation we just had about the effort and the time it takes to put a podcast together like this, how do you know whether you are actually being productive or if you're just, I guess, kidding yourself and telling yourself that you're being productive? Because I've seen that before, and I know people will probably look at me, and even though I put loads of hours in, I think I'm doing well and I think I'm being productive, how do I know whether I actually am or not?
I think if you understand what are the key goals or outcomes that you're looking to achieve in your business, whether you've got a monthly sales target or whether you've got an annual sort of turnover figure or market share figure for your business, you're asking yourself the question, are the things that I am doing today really going to move the dial towards helping me achieve that thing? A great quote I once heard, that every time you say yes to somebody else's goal, you're saying no to your own. So if you get clear about what's the one or two things, in actual fact, I would expect you to ask me a question about what's your favourite book on productivity. So it feels appropriate for me to just to slot this in now. And it's a book by Gary Keller called The One Thing, and it says what it is, what it does on the tin. Really, you say, what's the one thing that you need to get done today that will really move the dial towards achieving your objectives? What's the one thing this week, this month, this quarter, this year? So what I found in a world of business of ever increasing to-do lists, actually to help chunk up above all of that and go, right, I've got to get this one thing nailed today. Tracy, his first name will come back to me, Eat the Frog.
Brian Tracy.
Brian Tracy, thank you, my mental block there. This whole idea about what's that one thing you've been putting off in the day, you need to eat that frog, that one thing, and get it done straight away. So there are a number of different kind of authors around the same space that are all advocating focus on progress rather than activity, and make sure you get those ticked off and done early doors.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit, in that I totally agree with what you're saying, and Gary Keller in his blog actually wrote about the podcast the other day, randomly and coincidentally, so I'll probably link to that in the show notes for this episode if anyone wants to check that out. But it's a great book, and yeah, I get the concept, and in my days of medical device sales, that's what I did. I focused on the one thing, which is hit my target. Obviously, there's other things that trickle down from there of, looking after your customers and going after referrals and all that good stuff. I was constantly in trouble for not doing reports, for being late with internal stuff, for doing this and that. The sales manager always covered it, and he always just said, look, as long as you hit target, nobody cares about the rest of it, because that's what his job is. He's there to be that buffer, and obviously it depends on the sales manager, depends on the company. But how would you agree with that for a salesperson specifically? They've got their sales target, they're being incentivized upon that. Is that the one thing, and should that prioritize and come up before anything else that they could even, anything else that gets thrown at them day to day?
My simple answer is yes. Ultimately, at the end of the year or the end of the month, you're going to get judged on whether you hit your sales targets. And let's flip it around. If you've completed all the administrative paperwork, you've done all your sales reports, and you were the first person to get those in, but had consistently had the poorest performing figures, you'll probably be the first one that would be leaving the organisation. Mm-hmm. However, if you're the complete maverick and they're a superstar in terms of hitting your sales, but just give no attention to the numbers, to the admin, the paperwork, the reports, the crazy thing is that you become difficult to deal with or difficult to handle, and you may become a bit of a black sheep in that organisation. So as a guy I used to coach, actually, was without doubt singly the best in that organisation, the best at bringing in brand new business, winning those accounts and then growing those accounts. And he was a maverick. He didn't follow all the right processes. He didn't do anything illegally, but he didn't hit his exact number of sales quotas he should have done each day, but he certainly landed the most business at the end of every month. But he didn't do all the paperwork, and he got to the point where basically his employers just tired of him, even though he was a massive producer of the numbers, because he didn't fit into the corporate machine of be a good boy and do as you're told and complete all the reports. So I think my secondary advice is that don't be so belligerent on it that you become unemployable, or that you don't follow through on some of the background to your customers and your clients that still need it. And as a resource, if you're able to get an assistant that can help almost sweep up behind you to kind of fill some of those things that you might not be good at in terms of administrative stuff, I'd really recommend that.
Okay, so let's dive into that for a second, because I think this is super important, and it's something that I've been talking about, and they were starting to roll it out the last company I was at, in that we had, I can't remember the title now, but it was basically a sales rep in training that would be part of the team, and they would help with, if you had to see one big customer one day, you'd send them to see the smaller customer if the meetings were colliding, that kind of thing. Do you think that within the world of sales and business, do you think that that's going to become more and more prevalent?
Yes, and I think it's a great opportunity at a number of levels. I'm talking to business owners and larger corporates at the moment that recognise that because there's a shortage of good skilled people. One of the things I've come across time and time again in the speaking I've done all the way across the UK over the last couple of years, 84 different events. The single number one thing that's holding back the growth in businesses or in teams within business is the inability to get hold of enough of the right quality of talent. I think we're going to have to homegrow that talent. And if we can attract young, great people with a fantastic attitude, recruit, we've heard it all before, recruit for attitude, train for skill, then so we recently in our business have made exactly that hiring decision. We found someone with a phenomenal attitude where we're having to start at almost no presumed level of knowledge, but boy, is this young lady coming on in leaps and bounds in terms of her capability. And we know we've made the right decision. So do I think that's going to be more of a trend going forward? Yes. The need to get good quality talent means that we're going to have to home grow it. The need to get efficiency out of all resource, I think means that more people are recognising now that you should spend your time doing more of what you're good at. Mm-hmm. And if that's in front of the customers closing the deals, then do more of that and have someone to do your admin. As Michael Gerber, the E-Myth Revisited says, do what only you can do. But if we were around the clock, probably about 10, 15 years, there was, of course, cutbacks, cost savings, secretarial admin resource was stripped out of cost bases in organisations on the assumption that, well, that's an immediate impact on the bottom line. But salespeople shouldn't be filling in reports. They should be doing what they're good at, which is going out there, creating a relationship and selling and nurturing that relationship and growing the account. So I think it's a trend that will continue.
Definitely. And let's just dive into that a little bit further. So for any millennial salespeople who are new to sales that are listening, how can they be this keen, excited, motivated person that you just described? Are there anything that it'll be sales management or small business owners? What are they looking for specifically that the audience can not play up to, but can incorporate into their game when they're going for interviews for either that first sales job or perhaps that second sales job, which is the next step up?
Sure. Can I answer this by telling you a little story, something that actually happened for me? I've got a client, a London-based recruitment client actually, and they're in the medical services industry, and I'm working with a senior team, and we're on a program to accelerate and significantly grow their business over the course of 12 months. And we had a 2-day strategy offsite with the guys and girls in the team, and we went to a restaurant, actually at the Marriott Hotel just by Westminster Bridge. And we had dinner there, and this young guy, I think he was Dutch, this young guy served us as our waiter, food and he was the sommelier. The passion that he had to make it a special experience, the passion that he had to tell us about the dishes and which wines would be well suited to them, the heritage, he knew his stuff. And he wanted to please, and he wanted to make it an experience. And then maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, a client of mine took me to a very nice restaurant in Chester, a well-known restaurant, a very good hotel, and we had a tasting menu, and where 7 courses and paired wines, and the food and the wine and everything was amazing, but there was no theatre to it. There wasn't the passion by the waiter. The waiter would come up and tell us about the next course, but you just think, look, I'm sorry, we're in the middle of a business conversation. You're kind of interrupting. Whereas the guy down at the Marriott, who was going, I'm going to hang off every word because you're amazing. So I think to have a genuine passion and enthusiasm for your subject, I think is number one. Your ability to demonstrate that you're hungry. You want to achieve a result. You're not just want to take your pay check at the end of every month. That you really are hungry to grow, to push boundaries, to keep pushing the bar and raising your own standards. And finally, that you can learn and you want to learn. I did some work 2 years ago in the motor trade with one of the major motor manufacturers. And when I was looking at the people in the sales function, I was shocked how little they knew about their products. And then I've been into other dealerships, of other brands, and I have experienced the same thing. And most of the time now, when we're selling, we're dealing with a very educated audience. Hey, we've got Google. People have checked us out. They've checked out our product and service. They've read all the reviews. Hey, we decide where we're going to eat on holiday and where we often go and stay on holiday because some random person has shared an opinion on TripAdvisor. So we're dealing with an incredibly educated customer. So now it's not about what it may have been in sales years ago, where it was about, can I educate you about features and benefits of the product or the service? Now it's about, let me understand you. Let me understand about how I can help you to develop or design or tailor a solution to meet your specific requirements. Let's build a relationship. Let's build trust. And once we've got that old adage that people buy off people they know, like, and trust us, of course, stands strong. So the focus of around relationship, building trust, demonstrating that you really want to connect. And I don't think anybody in the world around sales now needs to be thinking about, what can I do to help? What can I do to give and add value first? And in return, you've got the foundation of a relationship where people want to do business with you.
Fantastic. I want to come back to something you said a little bit earlier on then, of to be bright and to be the person that, a recruiter or a sales manager, sales director would want to pick up and bring on board, whether you've got the experience or not. You want to come across as passionate, hungry, and, show willingness to learn. Just to focus on that for a second, because I don't see that in a lot of salespeople. I see a lot of salespeople that, for want of a better word, bullshit that's what they, are, that they are passionate, but they don't really care. What would you say to people like that? Is it that they're in the wrong market? Is it they perhaps just should not be working in sales? Should you be passionate on a deep, natural level, or is it a skill that not a skill, is it a trait that you learn and you improve on, and you gather more of it over time as you get further and further down the role of the salesperson selling that specific product?
A number of questions in there. I think the first thing is, are you interested? Do you like the product or the service? If you like the product or your service you're involved in, you're halfway there. If you don't like the product or the service, then I would encourage you to go and find an organisation where they're selling a product or service that you can believe in. If you don't believe in that product, it's very, very difficult to be passionate. That's when you're more likely to do the whole bullshit thing. But if you authentically, genuinely believe that that product or service is really good and it does what it says on the tin and will make a difference, then you can enthuse about it, then you're more likely to come across passionate. That's the first thing. Second thing, we can change our own emotional state. Hey, not everybody bounces out of bed in the morning as if they've just had the Duracell bunny. We all have days when we're a bit slower in the morning. We all have pretty crappy days. Or we could have sales call after sales call after sales call, and one rejection after another. What is it you're doing? I'm sure many of your listeners know about this idea about what can you do to change your mood, your emotional state. Listen to some really good music. Play back in your own mind a time when you've had an amazing sales call. My dad grew up around sales, and I was running his own business, but initially he was a commission-only salesman, and then he was a sales manager. And they used to have a Christmas competition where they were incentivized to hit certain targets. And he wanted the number 2 prize. He didn't want the number 1 prize, because the one prize he wanted, the number 2, was a car. It was a Mercedes car. And don't ask me why. Back in the 80s, tastes were a little bit different, but he wanted a brown Mercedes-Benz with alloy wheels. God knows why brown, but he chose that. And he tells this story, which I love, that every day for a week, day after day after day, he would go out and he'd be making his appointments, and he didn't make one sale. And he made the call at 4:30 on the Friday afternoon, where not only did he have do a big enough sale to cover the whole week. He said he almost like he levitated home. But the guy who was the business owner tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I've not seen you for a while, Harold. How are you doing? How's you? Oh, I've got this Christmas competition. I'm about to. I don't think I've got enough to win it." And he said, "Look, I've also had a good year. I'm going to give you an order now. One order that will be a year's worth of supply. Because if I don't pay you, it will just go out to the tax man. So can I buy a year's worth of supply off you?" So he got this bumper order. And what were my lessons around that was, he taught me the phrase from the W. Clement Stone book, Success System That Never Fails, which is The Napoleon Hill quote, what the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. So that was key. And the second one was persistence. Just never give up, keep going. When everybody else has just think, sorry, I've done my week, it's not worked, I'll go home and, I'll go to the pub or whatever, I'll go to be with my family. He kept going until he got the results. So belief and persistence.
And out of sales, business, entrepreneurship, because there's some entrepreneurs that listen, how much would you account of the success in all those realms to mindset? If you had to, guns ahead, put a figure on it.
It's the difference that makes the difference. There are many people that were gifted with the smarts, with the intelligence, with the resources, with great teams, perfect market opportunities, but just didn't believe, didn't push hard enough, didn't pursue it with enough passion. And there were others that didn't have all of those great resources and things stacked up in their favour, but with sheer determination, passion, positive belief and focus, have won the day. So the work that I do with entrepreneurs and with salespeople, what's the point? I actually had this conversation with a prospective client about sales training a week ago. And his request for me was, and my team was, come and teach us how to be better salespeople. And I said, that's only part of the story. I can give you the best tools in the toolkit, but if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't show up as the right person, if you don't know how to genuinely connect with somebody, then you're not even going to get the opportunities to get your fancy tools out of the toolkit. So a key part of what we do is we combine the mindset aspects with the technical sales training aspects so that we can shift the way of who you show up as a human being and the impact that you have on the people in front of you so that they're more likely to say yes and to buy from you.
Well, I've got a couple of questions to ask everyone that comes on the show, one of which you've half answered, but I'm going to ask you again anyway. What is one book or resource that you'd recommend to the Salesman Podcast audience?
Well, because I've already kind of given the time one, I'd like to give you a sales one as well. So I gave you the time one, which was The One Thing by Gary Keller. For those of you that have done any kind of research into selling techniques or maybe come across any neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, or hypnotic language patterns, it's a bit of a classic book, but there's some real genius in it. And it's called Persuasion Engineering by Dr. Richard Bandler, Persuasion Engineering. It takes a couple of real-world settings like used car sales and things like that. But it's clever, and it's got some really good ways of dealing with objections, for looking at what's going to connect with a prospect more quickly and help you build that relationship quickly. So Persuasion Engineering by Richard Bandler.
And just on this, because that book's come up a couple of times, I've not read it yet. I think it is on my Amazon wish list, so I'll get it when the current stack of books that I'm reading narrows down. But every time NLP gets mentioned, when it's not a guest on the show to talk about it, I always get tweets after the show airs of, why do you need to use NLP? It's manipulating people. It's using weird things. It's using tricks. And just to, as you've mentioned now, but do you think that is the case, or is that just nonsense?
I never thought we'd talk about this, Will, and I'm so glad you picked it up. I had the great privilege of being an apprentice to a guy called Michael Breen, who's a master trainer, him and Paul McKenna and Richard Bandler in the UK, and doing trainings both business focused and more generally focused around the NLP world. And for 3 or 4 years, I was learning how to apply the art, the craft, the science to the world of business to help improve performance. There's undoubtedly that there is a powerful tool set, and I think the key to it is about intent. You can use it to be scheming and manipulative, and by the way, people will just smell through that BS. Or you can use it to remove the most noticeable differences and to create a genuine rapport and to help somebody. We all know there's times when we can be in a conversation. The way we express ourselves can either grate or it can help it run more smoothly. The way you set a frame of reference around a conversation can have a massive impact on whether the conversation goes well or not. So to me, they're just tools or even an operating system that sits in the background that helps me to create a shift in performance and improve people. And the way I look at it is my intent is pure. I want to help. I want to serve. I want to help you improve your performance. And if I use new things that will help engage you and to help feed the messaging at an unconscious level, so you get this and use this, then that's okay, isn't it? I'm not about manipulating, because it always comes back and bites you on the backside anyway.
Interesting. That is very open and honest. Of other people that have come on the show have just said, no, it can't be used for anything untoward, blah, blah, blah. But what you're saying is that it's down to the intent. It's like anything, because you don't need to know NLP to be able to strong arm someone and to be able to put them into a stressful situation and push a sale that you know you're gonna end up refunding, or you're gonna end up with complaints in the background. So yeah, I appreciate your answer there. And next one.
Sorry, go
on. Go on. What were you gonna say?
I'll just tell you a quick little story. I started off my career actually training as a chartered accountant with KPMG, and it didn't set my world on fire, and I did the stuff now that I absolutely love. But I remember it coincided with my early training around NLP, and we did an audit, bizarrely enough, of a timeshare company. And I went through their sales kind of lounge and watched timeshare salespeople so overtly trying to use matching and mirroring, and just overtly, like, changing my metaphors, it was like they were putting makeup on with a trowel. They were just over the top with it, thinking that's what they should do. And it didn't work. Mm-hmm. You could see the people, I remember the look of surprise when I went up to one of the guys at the end of the day and tapped him on his shoulder and said, I saw everything we were doing, and by the way, did you see the response, the revulsion that it was getting? And at the end of the day, if all we want to do is technique all over people, the human being doesn't come out. Mm-hmm. We want to connect as a human being. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. It's going to show up. If you show up as being a genuine human being, and you have moments of the conversation's not going well, discord, where you might not have a meeting of minds, then appropriately you can use some tools or techniques to help move the conversation towards a combined intention or a combined goal. And so I feel quite passionate about so many people not knowing a great deal about NLP, or even there being poor explanations of what NLP is about, and saying it's bad, it's immoral, don't use it. You know, so many. You could say that the fact that your car does more than 70 miles an hour is bad or immoral, and it's a weapon, a dangerous weapon. It just depends on how you use it, what hands you put it into.
Definitely. Look, we'll have you back on the show to dive into that a bit further, because I can feel the passion there and what you're saying. And just to wrap up this part of the show, and something to ask everyone that comes on, if you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give him to help him become better at sales?
This has been an insight I've had probably as recently the last 2 years. And that is, and hopefully I can articulate it clearly enough, the level of a deal that you can win, you can command, the level of the sale that you secure is in line with the level of the value that you believe, your self-worth. If you believe that you're good enough, your product is good enough, and you pitch it that, you will command a higher price. If you've got doubts about yourself, then that's going to come through and you'll only settle for the lower price. So the greater your level of self-worth, self-belief, and belief in the product, the more you're going to be able to sell and at a higher price point.
Yeah, just to put that into further context, because I know the audience likes me talking about the bits of sales that I do. So regular listeners will know that I sell sponsorship for the podcast and partnerships for the website and everything else that we do over there at the blog over at salesman.red. I recently, on the back of a podcast that I recorded, I doubled the price that we were charging per quarter, just on a whim. They didn't have any context of what the industry standard pricing is for any of this. They just said, seems pretty cheap, double it, see what happens. Doubled it, closed the deal 2 days later for that new price, and it was literally down to my self-worth of, I thought that my podcast, because I knew the pricing of a couple of people, not in the world of sales and podcasting, but in other podcasts and health and fitness and different contacts I've got there. And I was charging less than what they were because I thought, I wasn't given as much value as what they were. Anyway, this deal closed. It's the biggest deal that we've done for 2 quarters. And as I said, we literally just doubled it instantly by me taking some outside advice and some outside influence of, you are holding yourself back here. So I think that's really valuable. And I've worked in sales for a number of years. Obviously, I've done this for 12 months or so now. and I'm still hitting my like brick wall of this. And probably in a year's time, I'll have to do exactly the same again and just put a crazy offer on the table with the next person that wants to work with us. So yeah, I really appreciate that, and it's just
a slight distinction on that as well, if I may.
Of course.
It's so easy for us to underestimate the value that we're delivering. Hey, you're well accomplished, you're well practiced at doing your show, you're great at it, it's very natural and conversational, but you've gone through a lot of periods of practice in order to be able to get as good as you are. We never know, when we drop the stone into the pond, the ripple effect of the impact that we can have. Your show, you were saying to me, you're getting like 10,000 downloads a day. That's a massive amount of value with a very targeted niche audience. So we should never underestimate the value that we deliver. It's so easy to talk it down. So believe in yourself, appreciate the value, and if you can't see the value you deliver, ask for the people in the marketplace around you about what it is that you do for them.
Fantastic. I think that's a really valid point. I think that's something that I didn't do my sales career, which I perhaps could have done in the medical device sales world. It wouldn't have taken much for me to go to the surgeons that I worked with day in, day out, the theatre teams, the C-suite executives that we were working with, and say, look, how much value do you feel that we're giving you? Because as you kind of said then, you might, because you're just doing it day in, day out, and it's just your job, you might not appreciate it. And then obviously they become massive testimonials, and you're likely to get into conversations about referrals by just asking that simple question. And look, with that, I want to just wrap up with you telling us a little bit about where the audience can find out more about you, and also the growth zone as well, which we touched on just before we started recording.
Sure. So my name's Gavin Preston, and my website is simply gavinpreston.com. There's some resources there that you can just tap into immediately to help you grow your business. But also coming up on Saturday the 5th of March, we've got a very special event called the Growth Zone. I'm a pragmatist. I love helping people get from a place of being plateau within their performance in a business or within their performance running their own business, and help them get a tangible plan of what can you do in the next 12 weeks to really shift the dial and move your business forward. So I've come up with a 6-step process called the Growth Code, about the 6 things that you can do in a 12-week period to really move the dial. And I'm taking everybody through that on the 5th of March in Cheshire. And so if you want to find out more about the Growth Zone, it's simply growthzone.co.uk, and then you can find out more. So it's growthzone.co.uk, and then you can find out more about that event on the 5th of March.
Good stuff. And we'll link to that in the show notes for anyone who is on a treadmill and is trying to write any of this down at the moment, or if you're in your car, which I know a lot of your listeners are as well. We'll link to all that in the show notes over at salesman.red. And with that, Gavin, I want to thank you for your time, mate. I want to thank you for joining us on the Salesman Podcast.
It's been a real pleasure. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
And there we have it. I just want to thank Gavin again for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I want to thank you, the audience, for tuning in. I say it all the time, but there would not be a show unless you tuned in. So I appreciate that. Your time is valuable, and hopefully you're getting a lot out of these episodes. Tomorrow we have a really interesting show coming up. I'm going to just tease it a little bit it was one of my favorite interviews I've done so far. It's slightly off topic, but I know and the majority of our audience are blokes. As a bloke, you're going to get a lot out of it. So with that said, I'll speak with you again tomorrow.